What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be making a sink out of a cattle skull and a dog bowl. My dog Rocky passed away a couple months ago and I've been holding on to his dog bowl. It has a lot of sentimental value to me and I thought using that as the base for my sink would be really cool. And while on a FaceTime call with a friend that was visiting Mexico, he got me on with the shop owner and I noticed a cool cattle skull, so we worked out a deal for that. So it was a really simple install. This is everything that I used. The most important part of this whole project was this little foot pump. I bought it off eBay and it works flawlessly. I highly recommend it if you're looking for an easy sink solution. I'm probably gonna buy a couple of these for, a shower and then a kitchen sink. All you need to do once you purchase it is buy 2 half-inch vinyl tubings. One is going to go to your water source and the other one is going to be essentially your faucet. And the cool thing is you can kind of just have fun with it and run it through whatever you'd like, kind of like how I ran mine through a cattle skull. I think it's healthy to have some reminders of how quickly life can be taken from you, with the 2 bullet holes in this cattle skull. Obviously didn't see that coming. Unfortunately, I had an acquaintance that suffered the same fate in a carjacking a couple months ago. So yeah, for me, this is just something I could look at and reminder just to live life to the fullest, be kind, and just do your best. And yeah, it's as dark as I'm gonna get in this video, I promise. All right, back to it. So for mounting the skull, I used an handrail bracket, which worked perfectly. I had a couple other options planned, but that's really all you need. And there are a couple options I saw online for mounting skulls, but really that handrail bracket works perfect. And this is Rocky's old dog bowl that I'm going to be using for the sink. As you can tell, it still has some slobber from the Indian reservation dogs that like to come by and hang out. I used an 1.25" sink drain, and to cut a hole, I used an 1.25" bit. And keep in mind that there's going to be a little bevel at the top and you're probably going to have to make the hole a little bit bigger so it'll fit properly. I picked up this extension tube that attaches to the sink drain, and then I bought this P-trap. And these I'm simply just going to run into like a little 5-gallon gray water tank. And to keep the tubing in place, I just bought these 1-hole straps so I could strap it to the walls. All right, let's get into it. First thing I did was to trace out the bowl, which was going to be my sink, on a piece of plywood. I traced the outer lip, and then keep in mind that I have to have it not just fall straight through. So I measured 1/4 inch in from that, and I took a piece of rope and I made a little circle within that circle, and that's where I cut with the jigsaw. Instead of having to do an awkward plunge cut, I like drilling a little pilot hole and then coming in with the jigsaw and finishing up the circle. Take your time with this part because it's really easy to go off track with the jigsaw. My circle wasn't perfect, but it doesn't really matter because the lip of the bowl covers up any imperfections. Then I cut down the piece of plywood to how big I wanted the sink to be. I think I left about 5 inches on either side, and it measured 20.5 inches total and just fits into the little nook next to the composting toilet. The next step was to add some support legs. I think most bathroom sinks are between 29 and 36 inches. I did about 30 inches. I wanted to have it like free floating, but with the toilet paper rack and how I was going to mount it, it just wasn't going to work out. So I went for the legs. Couldn't really make this part any more simple. I just used some 8D nails and put 4 legs on it, which I ended up actually only using 2 because I wanted it completely up against the wall. And I realized that there's not really much weight on it, so I just put this little, 2x3 underneath the back part. And without the back legs, I had more room for like storing the gray water tank and, if I just want to put other supplies down there. For mounting the skull, I put some 2x4s on the stud to back it off a little bit so, the water was going into the sink more. And there's a nice little cavity in the skull, and it was extremely easy to hang. And anytime that I wanted to take it off or anything like that, it's very easy to take on and off. The next step was to drill a hole in the bottom of the dog bowl. I used an 1.25" bit tried to get it in the center as much as possible. Be careful, the torque on this could really mess your wrist up. I actually had a coworker when I did electrical work, broke his wrist doing something similar to this, so be really careful. For the sink drain, just take off the little lock nuts and the little rubber gasket part. Again, for this hole, make sure you bore it out a little bit more than the 1.25 inches. I actually probably could have went a little more. Mine's not sitting exactly flush, and there's a little bit of water sitting in the bottom. Something I can go back and fix later, but again, for this type of install, like, I'm not too worried about having a tiny bit of water. So once you have the hole, get everything there. I use this cool little thing with a little stopper, tighten everything up really good, and then it's time to plop it on in. Attached to the sink drain, I put on a flex tube. This came in really handy. I'm glad I went for the flexible tube because I ended up putting a 90-degree angle in it so that my P-trap landed directly into my 3.5-gallon gray water tank. And I'm sure I have no experience with plumbing. That's probably wrong with the whole trap being at that angle, but really for my application, I could just be running vinyl tubing from the sink and I would have been perfectly fine with that. And hindsight is 20/20. Watching this back, I don't understand why I didn't just have the flexible tube going directly into my gray water. The P-trap I bought was inexpensive and easy to install, and it has all these like little rubber gaskets, and I believe it's all just like hand tighten only, which was nice, not having to buy like, plumber's tape and cement. So then it was time to see how this fit, and luckily it fit really well. All I did was grab my flexible tubing and turn the angle, and yeah, just very simple and how I like it. Poured some water down the sink. Everything seemed to be working well. Now that the little gray water station is set up, it was time to run the vinyl tubing with the water pump. I opted to put my water outside just to save room in the outhouse, and I didn't even have to drill a hole in the side. I had a nice little gap in my roofing to where I could run the pipe out of. The foot pump is super easy to install. Just install the one vinyl tubing on the one side that is going to where you're pulling water from, and then the other tube is just going to wherever your faucet thing is going to be. For me, that was the cattle skull. I ran it through the cavity, making sure to have it low enough to where it wasn't, dripping on the bone, because I'm sure that can get pretty gross pretty quick. I didn't feel like cutting down the tubes. I just wanted to leave it at length. They're 10 feet each, so I just bought some one-hole straps, and I just ran it along the walls, and if I ever want to move it, I have a little bit of wiggle room. And these are my favorite guys. They always come on, hang out. I miss having a dog, but I do not miss the responsibility, so it's nice getting to hang out with these guys for a little bit, but they do their own thing. They're wild. And then the foot pump, all I did was drill it to the ground, and yeah, that was it, man. It was looking good. A lot of other things I want to do to it, maybe like add some lights to the eye sockets. I'm making sure to use just like Dr. Bronner soap, which I hear is like pretty biodegradable and good, because I'm just going to be taking my gray water and dumping it on cacti or plants on the land, or I'm going to find some other uses for it. But it'll be nice getting to, not just have my water go into the dirt, having some kind of use for it. Good morning. Just washed my hands. It's a pretty sweet little luxury having the running water prime sink. Yeah, I'm pretty much just going to keep it simple like this. I'm not going to put the door on the front since I have the pump there, and I'm always going to have to change out that gray water tank. And I'm going to put a little stain on it real quick because it's going to be getting wet all the time, because this kind of splashes out. And yeah, so the tube, people have already asked me, friends and stuff that I showed on my Instagram, yeah, the tube doesn't actually like touch any of the bone, so it's not like this is running through the cavity and like bone fragments are like coming down with it. The tube is actually just popping out the bottom right here, so it's not like, touching any of the skull. Oh, and something pretty cool, I was able to get one of my Pop-Ups outhouses. Boom, there it is. Let's see if I could open it up. I think it got a little messed up in the move, but yeah. Pretty cool.